Hey guys, Jack Cypher here, coming straight from wrapping up my last video of reviewing all 13 episodes of the 1,000 Year Blood War arc. Definitely go give that a watch. In the video, I express an interest in deciphering the spectacular fight between the Flame God himself, Yamamoto, and, Yhwach? If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you've already watched/read this fight, or don't mind being spoiled. If you don't want to be spoiled, seriously, turn off now. You all still here? Okay, so I don't know how to refer to this fight. Is it Yamamoto versus Yhwach, or Yamamoto versus Roidloid? Or is it Yamamoto versus Roidloid with Yhwach for the assist? Titling this video is going to be such a pain. Okay, as this video moves forward, I'm going to be going by Yamamoto and Roid. We all good with that? I'm going to straight up say it. This fight is the best animated fight in all of Bleach so far. I'm not sure if I would say the best fight of all time, because it has some strong contenders. Did I just walk into my next video? I sure did. Subscribe because top 10 best fights in Bleach is coming next. But back onto the topic. The animation was so god tier for this fight. It was stunning. The look and intensity of the flames were awe-inspiring. I honestly reckon Kubo does his best work with fire. But it wasn't just the flames and motion that was impressive, but the characters' faces as well. Yamamoto especially looked fabulous. Easily his best showing. The music flowed perfectly with this fight. The way the animators transitioned between the current time and the past was synchronized perfectly. Seeing the more youthful yet no less angry Yamamoto was chilling. And getting that tiny bit of extra detail in Chojuro stabbing Yhwach from behind to give Yamamoto the opening to attack was great. It gives more substance to Chojuro and gives the watchers a much better idea of what went down 1,000 years ago. I was someone who going into this wanted to see a full flashback of the fight between Yhwach and Yamamoto. We didn't get that, but I think this works nearly just as well. There is no need for a flashback, because the anime is telling us the fight went nearly the exact same as it's going now. Despite all of Yhwach's strength, he's no match for the power of Yamamoto's Bunkai. Because calling this a fight can be very misleading. It was more like a one-sided beatdown. As soon as Yamamoto activated Bunkai, Roid was on the defensive. He was pretty much powerless to do anything. Knowing this, you could make an argument that if Yamamoto was fresh and couldn't have his Bunkai stolen, then he could take out this current version of the real Yhwach. Now for right now, that's just a theory, but it's something that could make a good video later on. The truly interesting thing about this fight is that it's a clash between the past and the present. Yhwach represents the past, and with that, all the power, hatred, and killing that came from it. And Yamamoto represents the present, with how they as a soul society has evolved since then. This would also make Ichigo represent the future, with how he needs to clean up the messes from the past and the present. And with his newly found maturity, he aims to do just that. It's just ironic that the old man is playing the present and the essentially young emperor is playing the past. But it's this symbolism that makes this fight so impressive. They're clashing their swords through time itself. But ultimately, it's essentially Yamato's character development that kills him, which is ironic. He's become a much more kind and gentler person from his younger days. He has things he cares for now. He has things he needs to protect. He's like a lion whose fangs and claws have dulled, while he's protecting his pride and territory. Sure, he still fights off threats to his very way of life, but there'll always be that one lion, Scar, who will use any deceitful and underhanded tactic to get the better of him. And this is what happened. Yamamoto's new way of life blunted his sword, as it did his hate. Yhwach, the ever-cruel and cunning man, took advantage of this, using his subordinate to buy time, while he tried to acquire a formidable ally, and after failing in that endeavor, captured Yamamoto's infamous Bunkai, and struck the Captain Commander down with a ruthless want. Yamamoto's death is truly one of the saddest moments in Bleach. We don't get to learn too much of Yamamoto, and he's not the stereotypical old guy in manga who we grow to love. Most of the time he's on screen, he actually plays a somewhat antagonistic role to our protagonist. But we catch glimpses of his more caring side every now and again through the series, and especially in the flashback of his relationship with Chojiro. But the main reason this is so sad is because we see the utter hopelessness and despair on his face when his realization of what's about to happen happens. I don't believe it's because he fears dying, more like he's bitter and shameful that he couldn't stop this threat that he should have wiped out 1,000 years ago, and angry that he's going to have to leave it to his subordinates to take care of the situation, or more specifically angry that they're going to have to rely on Ichigo again, because according to Yamamoto this is a Soul Reaper problem. Ichigo, a supposed human, shouldn't have to be endangering himself and risking his life for them again. So to see all these emotions fall over this once proud and unshakable man is heartbreaking. Yhwach rubs Yamamoto's apparent weakness straight into his face before killing him in a truly brutal way, easily the most brutal death of any major character. The sheer disgust and coldness that Yhwach kills Yamamoto with is chilling. Now, there are a few little things I want to talk about before getting into Yamamoto's bunkai. First, I love the extra little scenes the anime added into this fight. There weren't too many, but the ones that were just made this fight seem more full and complete. Just that little something that this fight needed. I also love when Yamamoto takes down 3 Sternritter with ease. This scene is so badass. Having Robert, the smarmy git, brag about Shunsui's side not being the only ones to get hyped up by their leaders fighting, and then having Yamamoto just one-shot them was amazing. A quick little side note, Basby being able to take that attack and protect the others is low-key underrated. Anyway, onto the point of Yamamoto entering the battle, seeing how all the captains start feeling more confident and rejuvenated was great and wholesome to see. Now, the last great thing about this fight I want to get into before the epic Zanka no Tachi is that every big bad that goes up against Yamamoto needs to resort to some underhanded tactic. Aizen with Wonderwise, Yhwach with both the fake doppelganger and stealing his bunkai. It just paints Yamamoto in such a strong light that the strongest characters in the verse need to stoop to such measures to be able to contend with the head captain. It makes me wonder, with no BS, could anyone really take Yamamoto in a straight fight? A certain mad monk maybe? Who honestly knows? I could easily see Yamamoto being the strongest combatant in the verse, not including the Soul King and the almighty Yhwach. But pairing Yamamoto with other characters to do a verse battle could be quite interesting, and something I think I might do in the future. But for right now, let's get into the real meat and potatoes. This fight is where we get to witness the sheer might of Yamamoto's bunkai, Zanka no Tachi. First off, his incarnation of it is so badass. The way all the blistering flames suddenly disappear and get trapped into a charred, feeble-looking sword that just reeks of this otherworldly power. The way the moisture in all of Soul Society begins to evaporate. Ukitake's throat drying up. Shunsui's lips cracking. Hyorin Maru quickly starting to melt. Unohana straight up saying that if Yamamoto doesn't end this soon, that all of Soul Society would be destroyed. The fact that Zanka no Tachi is so strong that it could destroy a whole world like the Soul Society is ridiculous, and puts Yamamoto on just a whole different level of power. I love the trope of someone so strong, but having the downside of that power being too strong that it can't be used for a long time, or otherwise it will start causing drastic effects to the environment around them. Now let's just get into some of these amazing bunkai abilities that we see in this fight, and there's no better place to start than Zanka no Tachi, Higashi, Kyokyujitsujin. Now I'm going to try attempt all these attacks in Japanese, but just as you saw, my Japanese is even worse than my English, and that's saying something. Anyway, Kyokyujitsujin is a quite basic yet deadly ability. Basically, all of Yamamoto's flames get condensed into the edge of his blade, and when he strikes an opponent, it completely erases everything in the path of the sword, turning it into nothingness. Honestly, if this was Zanka no Tachi's only ability, this Bankai would still be one of the strongest in the series. But it's when you get into his other abilities that you see how truly broken this Bankai is. My favorite move from this Bankai is definitely Zanka no Tachi Nishi Zanjitsu Gyokui, where Yamamoto covers his body in flames, as hot as the freaking sun. Not only does this technique look amazing visually, but the sheer power of it is otherworldly. It essentially makes Yamamoto untouchable, being able to pretty much one-shot anyone in the verse with just this defensive power. That wasn't impressive enough, then Zanka no Tachi Minami Kakajumonokushi Daio's Jin will definitely do it for you. A move that gathers the ashes of everyone who's ever died from Zanka no Tachi, transforming them into undead skeleton soldiers. Yamamoto can use these for defense or to overwhelm his opponents with sheer numbers. This move also works from a psychological standpoint, by reviving people your opponent was close to. Honestly, Yama pretty much just used this ability to show off and try destroy Yhwach, or rather Royd's will. Because Yamamoto could have taken down Royd with just the first two abilities we spoke of. Honestly, he probably could have taken him down with just Zanjitsu Gyokui. Another little side note, when Yhwach stole Yamamoto's Bankai, he threatened to revive all of Yamamoto's comrades with it. Is that even possible? From the way Yamamoto spoke about it, he could only revive people he specifically burned with his Ryujin Jaka. If he killed someone with his bare hands, for instance, he wouldn't be able to revive them. Meaning, how would Yhwach be able to revive people he didn't specifically kill with Zanka no Tachi? I feel like that's probably Yhwach just trying to mess with Yamamoto before he kills him. Anyway, on to Yamamoto's last ability. It's quite similar to his first, and pretty much Yamamoto's version of the Getsuga Tensho, because he pretty much fires off a massive fuck-off slash to completely cut Royd in half. Or rather 99% of him. Like, honestly, how did this little piece of fabric survive? I would say Yamamoto definitely has one of, if not the strongest Bankai in the series, and one of my all-time favorites. Before we wrap this video up, I'll just quickly go over the one fault I have with this fight, and you should all probably know what it is by now. It's the twist with Royd masquerading as Yhwach. I spoke in my last video of how I didn't like this at all, but I'll quickly go over it again. For me, having Royd be the one Yamamoto was fighting kind of took all the wind out of the sails of this epic fight. It really took away that oomph. The biggest issue with Royd is we never get to know a thing about his character. We never see an interaction with him before his death, and even after it, we never get any sort of flashback. It just seems so weak. He's painted as just some mindless drone who's fanatically loyal to Yhwach, and that's an issue when this is supposed to be one of your tentpole fights in the series. It feels like they went with the shock factor over the succinct storytelling, and I think it was an error or a blemish on what was otherwise a near perfect fight. Tell me, did you guys like this fight? Do you have any issues with it? Did you guys think the anime did a good job animating it? Let me know it all down in the comments. If you've liked this video, then make sure to like and subscribe. But for right now, I've been Jack Cypher, and Cypher out.